Okay, our next reader is Agnes Savich from Pflugerville, Texas. She's a haiku writer published in many impressive places. Here we go. Frog Pond, The Heron's Nest, Under the Basho, and Paper Wasp. Her haiku have been featured in the Haiku Foundation's app, the International Meteor Society's Contemporary Poetry Project, the Daily Yomiuri Japanese newspaper, and Haiku 21, an anthology of contemporary English language haiku from Modern Haiku Press. She was a featured Southwestern Haijin in Roadrunner Haiku Journal, and she's published a collection of her early poetry called The Watcher Poems. That's 10 things in just one bio. Her poem is on the week of June 11th. Let's welcome her.
Sorry I published so much. Texas Tanka Triptych. It's a series of 3 tanka, which is slightly longer than haiku. It has 5 lines each. Before coffee, mockingbirds unlock the morning, an echo of footsteps under the magnolia. Grackles scrabble in a palm tree. The cell phone overheats before we finish talking. The shade alive with the blue wing of a dead jay. Crepe myrtles bloom like they always have. And going with the triptych theme, I'm just going to read 3 very short haiku. And it's also customary to read them twice, so I'll read each one twice. This morning carries a different tune, birds on a wire. This morning carries a different tune, birds on a wire. Jagged branches, cricket song, stitches the stars. Jagged branches, cricket song, stitches the stars. This rotating planet, I search for a stone flat enough for skipping. This rotating planet, I search for a stone flat enough for skipping.
Okay, our next reader will be Amy Greenspan from right here in Austin, Texas. She has recent poems in Cattails, Lifting the Sky, Southwestern Haiku and Taiga, also from Dos Gatos Press, and the Ghazal Page, as well as numerous Story Circle Network publications. Prior to beginning her encore career at the University of Texas at Austin, Amy was a managing editor for Aspen Publishers and authored several employment law books. Her poem can be found on the week of June 18th. Thank you.
So I also have a haiku. That's what's in the poetry calendar. So this was written after the second Memorial Day flood in my neighborhood, Allendale. Baseball fields submerged after the storm. Heron makes a catch. Baseball fields submerged after the storm. Heron makes a catch. The second thing I'd like to read is in Blue Hole. I didn't make it up to the Georgetown Poetry Festival this year, so I didn't get a chance to read it then, so I thought I would read it now. The meaning of dragonflies. At 38, Dave died, suddenly, needlessly. Pregnant wife, panicked friends, stand by the open grave, a hole far too shallow to hold our pain. The air throbs with sorrow. Then, near my ear, shivers turquoise light. A dragonfly, fearless on my shoulder, lifts its wings and whispers. The words the boys are days. Love every single day you're alive. And my last poem describes my current state, which hopefully, with any luck, by this weekend will be altered. Body beachless. My nose hungers for fishiness, the tang of rotting seaweed. My skin wants to sting with sun-cooked salt. My feet dream of gritty sand, the squish at water's edge, the sinking. My lungs crave heavy, wave-moved air. My ears seek the tern's screech, my eyes the curved horizon. Gray swells spooning, blue sated sky.
Our next reader is Marcel Crossroads from here in Austin, Texas. She was born in France and received an MA from the University of Texas in Austin. Marcel writes in English and French, and she also translates her French poems into English. Many of her poems have been published in reviews, anthologies, and online. She's been awarded several prizes for her poetry, and she has published 6 books, most recently The Silence of Light in 2015, and she can be found on the last week of July 30th. So welcome.
If you have traveled Highway 10 or Highway 40 from here to California, you might relate to this. You may have come upon a red cloud. Red cloud. I come in on the back of western storms. If winds are strong enough, I can snuff out the sun. When I hunch my shoulders and extend my wings, I know no boundaries. No doors, no windows, no walls. Cover your mouth, cover your noses. I respect no privacy. Cowboys know me and use a bandana for that purpose. I cling to sweat and stucco the crevices on your faces. Years ago, I half buried many of you when your plows, your cattle set me free. Thank you. I'll stay with the Texas topic. I have my first book that I wrote was Organza Skies, and it's about the Davis Mountains. And this is about a hummingbird. This morning, I found your feathered jewel impaled on a spine. Was it your mad rush to reach the intoxicating breath of a yucca's white throats? The sudden nudge of a last gust of wind? The treacherous glare of a dying sun? Was it the spine's fault for not bending? Offering. I spaced the small mounds of corn evenly on the brown ledge. In the middle, I placed a blue bowl filled with water, and they come. Oh, to feed, to be allowed to minister to hunger, to kneel in front of the supreme need. Not to steal the occasional thrill of a stroke of rough matted fur, nor the touch of a cold nose, but to commune, to unearth the original bond of flesh, twisted and strong, and to pray that from this simple offering, leavened loaves may rise and multiply. Oh, to feed, and in return, 1,000 times to be fed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcel. Our next reader will be John Cline from Austin, Texas. He is a writer and teacher. His work has appeared in The Atlantic, the Oxford American, and the Los Angeles Review of Books, among others. A native Midwesterner with deep familial ties to the land of that region, he's been living in Texas for the past decade. This is his first poetic work in many years, and we're glad he sent it in. His poem can be found the week of August 6th. Let's welcome him.
So I was camping down on the Gulf Coast, bird watching, and a little out of my head. And I don't know if you guys know this, but when you go into all those terrible shell shops, those are all harvested live from the Philippines. They're nowhere near the Gulf Coast where those shells come from. Anyway, this is the haiku that came out of that. Wave-crushed silicate, from shell to sand returning, distant oil derricks. Wave-crushed silicate, from shell to sand returning, distant oil derricks. Here's a brief sketch I wrote for this. I spent about a half an hour today standing on the bridge that separates the two sections of my apartment complex. The bridge spans the Arroyo Seco Creek, which begins a little north of the Brentwood Neighborhood Park and flows south until it eventually runs into Shoal Creek, right around the intersection of the boulevard of that same name and 49th Street. When it's dry, which is most of the time, at least most years, you can walk most of its length, since the bed consists of smooth limestone 8 to 10 feet below the surrounding terrain. In high flood, it runs fast, but the limestone rapidly becomes algae covered if steady rain keeps enough water to stand or flow gently across the bed. There's a substantial population of snails that live near the particular footbridge I was standing on, and you have to be careful not to crush them on a wet day like today, as they wander afield of their shaded nook in the old river birch nearby. What caught my eye in the water was the long, thin body of a snake. My identification skills aren't perfect, but from my vantage, it looked like a blotched water snake. The coloring was similar to a water moccasin or a cottonmouth, but with a much thinner body and narrower head. Maybe 3 feet long. It was just lying there, barely swinging against the soft current. And then I saw the frog, a spring peeper, copper-colored enough to stand out against the green algae on the limestone. Any witnessed encounter between a frog and a snake has ancient mythic dimensions. But the frog lay flattened, unmoving, and while I assumed the snake could sense its presence, with constant flickering tongue, it eventually swam up into the grass along the bank. When I see a predator and prey together, I wonder what decisions are being made. The frog most obviously does not want to get eaten. But what did the snake judge? Did the snake judge its quarry too large, too far to make a strike? In any case, it went on its way, as did I.
All right. Thank you very much. Our next poet is Nathan Brown from Wimberley, Texas. He's an author, Nathan. And for those of you who haven't met Nathan, here's why. He's an author, songwriter, and award-winning poet. He served as Poet Laureate of Oklahoma for 2013-2014. He also holds a PhD in English and journalism. Nathan has published 11 books, most recently To Sing Hallucinated, but actually there's one more after that, isn't there? Which he'll tell you about in just a second. An earlier book, Two Tables Over, won the 2009 Oklahoma Book Award. He's taught memoir, songwriting, performance, and creativity workshops for the Taos Poetry Festival, the Woody Guthrie Festival, and at the well-known Blue Rock Artist Ranch outside Austin. His poem can be found the week of August 13th. Let's welcome him up.
All right, so this representative of my least favorite week of the year. And so here's a hot and smoky sonnet. A Corona, salt and lime. A Corona, salt and lime at the bar of the Devil's Backbone Tavern. A corner of the world like Russia where we still smoke 'em inside. And by we, I don't mean me. Not per se, but here in the stale, sulfuric air of this funky hideout down in the dark halls of hell, it might as well be me. One of the ones with a Marlboro wilted down to an ashy stub, poking a shirt pocket for the pack. There are no non-smokers in this joint, and it's not the place to make a point. So this is a not quite sonnet from a newer book. It's called My Salvaged Heart. Came out earlier this year. Me, she, him, and her. The two of us stepped into the cafe, me along as the new boyfriend, to meet with the him and his her that my new she now works for. He and my she had had a fling a year or so ago, when my she was with another and he was with this her, his her who does not know. So my she sat down next to his her, who put her arm around mine, and I sat next to him, who does not know that I know about him and my she. And anyway, we all had the nicest time. And as for me, and I think my she, we understood that sometimes this is how the pronouns of love pan out. And I'm going to read the tail end of a brand new or something that just came out. This is a book of co-written poems with a local Austin songwriter, a guy named John D. Graham. He's an Austin Music Hall of Famer. He's a 3-time inductee. He's a wonderful songwriter and kind of Charles Bukowski reincarnated. So you can't take him to parties, and he scares people. But I also want to say that his opinions do not necessarily, those are not necessarily the opinions of me. But we co-wrote this book together. And what I'm going to read is 5 of his 7 points. At the very end of this book, he and I both responded to this title: A Few Rules for the Starving Artist That Are Really More Just Guidelines. And here's John D's first 5 of 7. Rules for the starving artists that are really more just guidelines. 1, be certain you are an artist. Sure, you're starving. Maybe it's because you're lazy or untalented. It could be a lot of things, really. 2, please understand, words are under no obligation to you. Just because you expect them to accomplish this or that doesn't mean they will. Words don't give a single damn about you or what you want. Can you be okay with that? Think before answering. 3, being profoundly unhappy does not add depth or substance. It only worries your family and exasperates your friends. Angst is for amateurs. Sylvia Plath wrote in spite of her depression, not because of her depression. 4, are you even listening? These are unimportant. Quit staring out the window like that, it's creepy. 5, is writing well what you want with every atom of every molecule of every ounce of everything you are? Wow, then I really hope it works out for you.
If you want to buy that book and those dictums, or My Salvaged Heart, they're back there as well.